I would say that Shawn doesn't have the greatest of track records before he got injured and left.
My life was sort of going to hell in a handbasket.
Regarded by many as one of the greatest WWE wrestlers of all time, in the 1990s, however, Shawn Michaels was often disliked by many in the wrestling world due to his backstage behavior, which included arrogance, drug use, and alleged manipulation of the system.
I was going to stomp your ass if, or try at least, to stomp your ass if you didn't do business.
These issues led to him being considered difficult to work with, and some wrestlers openly expressed their negative experiences with him, which includes a story from Rocky Johnson, the father of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, where he recants an incident between The Rock and Shawn Michaels.
He almost killed the Heartbreak Kid. Shawn Michaels went to, so I wasn't there, I just heard the story. They got in the ring and something happened. Shawn threw the karate kick, and I guess he kicked him a little bit too hard, so Dwayne come back in the dressing room and told him, hey man, you hit me too hard, calm down. But then he got smart with him. Said if you can't take it, you shouldn't be in this business. And then next thing you know, he's on the floor and Dwayne's on top of him.
Al Snow alludes to the fact that Shawn Michaels didn't have a lot of respect for the wrestlers below him in the WWE.
Shawn was all right. It just, I don't know, it was a weird time, and it was a weird situation. That a lot of guys had this attitude of, oh, well, I'm the main event, this guy's a curtain jerker. You can't be the main event, you don't have an opening match. And there should be that type, there should be the competitiveness to want to be the star, to be the thing that drives the show. But you should also have an understanding that you're not bigger than the show, that it takes all of these other people to build up the house, to build up the card, to produce the show, to do the lights, to do the sound. You just walk out there as just you by yourself. Ain't nobody gonna pay to see that. I don't care who you are. Hulk Hogan never acted that way. Is Hulk Hogan a driven, self-centered performer? Yeah, we all are. But he would always go out of his way to thank people, to, appreciate what they do. Vince McMahon himself will come up and tell you thank you, because if he doesn't have you, he doesn't have a show. So there's nobody bigger than the show, and there were a lot of guys at that time that felt and behaved like they were.
Jim Ross stated that although they had a lot of problems with Shawn Michaels back in the 90s, he was surprised that they didn't have more than what they did.
I got complaints about Shawn from talents all the time.
Yeah.
Pretty much on a daily basis. But the talents also knew that Shawn had such a connection with Vince that they could only push that issue so far. And then it runs into Vince's judgment call, and you're basically telling Vince you're making a huge mistake, you don't know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, almost on a daily basis, it seemed like somebody had something to say. And I'm surprised that we didn't have more issues than we did.
It's also no secret that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels really disliked each other during the 1990s.
I'd say he was a two-faced lying chicken shit. And I'm probably being nice to him. And I don't think that's a snake that never changes stripes. Shawn, he was the kind of guy that would make friends with you or bury the hatchet with you 10 minutes later, and 10 minutes later he'd be out there stabbing you in the back again. You couldn't make peace with him. He was a guy, and the guy that was, I think he had put a new meaning to the word sort of prima donna or self. He had such a huge ego, and I think you always got to have a lot of ego to become a champion. I'm sure people say I have an ego, and I think I do, or everyone does. And if you're going to be a big star, you have to have an ego. You have to. It sort of comes down to believing in yourself. But Shawn was a guy that was very insecure and very, I think, weak as a person.
One of Shawn Michaels' biggest critics over the years has been Jim Cornette, who does not hold back with regards to his opinion of Shawn Michaels.
I won't say he didn't draw, but he was horrible for business as far as doing business. Because how many times did he drop the thing once he won it? Did he lose his smile? Was he upset about something? Was he cranky that week? Was his asshole bleeding? Was her asshole bleeding that week? Jose did train Shawn. Jose broke Shawn into business. Shawn did not want him in the ring with him. And I don't know why. He never actually came out and said it. You could just tell it because he would turn away from him. He didn't put him over. There was never that father-son relationship. There was never that genuine feeling. He ignored him half the time and yelled at him a few times. Like the 65-year-old manager and the 35-year-old fat manager on the other side are going to steal the spotlight from him. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Most of the shit that you heard Shawn Michaels say was either the stuff he was supposed to talk about using his own words or just sometimes just shit that he just wanted to say. And half the time when Raw was on tape, the interview might go 12, 13, 14 minutes and 6 of it would air because they just let him get it out of his system because it wasn't going to fucking show. But it just, the whole Degeneration X thing sort of came out of that because he was jacking off. He was jacking off with everybody's fucking livelihood and the company, and he didn't give a shit. And so they just made a group of jack-offs based on a guy who was already jacking off. And that's why I never was a fan.
The late Leon White, known to wrestling fans as Vader, recalls an incident with Shawn Michaels in the ring in which Michaels acted extremely unprofessional.
I thought it was unprofessional. I mean, okay, A, B, oh, we'll skip C, but we'll do D and come back to C. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how professionals work. Never in my life had that happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone forgets spots, and even Shawn forgets spots. Well, if you forget something, boom, you do something else, then you come back to it, right? I mean, it's called wrestling.
Jim Cornette also weighed in with regards to this incident with Vader.
Shawn Michaels is used to everybody, or was used to everybody catering to him, and also was used to people working with him a lot lighter. And I remember one time it was in Tulsa. It was at a house show in Tulsa. There, Leon's got him by the hand and he's fucking peppered him right, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden I see Shawn gets out of it and grabs some kind of hold and there's a conversation. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they go on and they go to the finish a couple minutes later and Leon rolls. Of course, Leon lost. It's another thing, a big monster. Frankenstein kicked a few villagers' asses first to get over. Leon rolls out and he's crying. He said, Shawn Michaels told me if I yanked his hair that way, that'd be my job, and he's going to get me fired. And then at SummerSlam 96, go back and watch the fucking tape. Some way or another, Shawn's going to come off the top with a fucking elbow, and Leon's supposed to move. He's always on pills or whatever. And by the way, Shawn, you too, for the way you fucking talked to me, for the way you talked to Jose Lothario that got you in the business, for the way that you fucking got with your little clique and fucking exposed the business in Madison Square Garden and kowtowed, and everybody had to kowtow to you, and you're whining and you lost your smile and you didn't want to do jobs, and wherever you were pilled up doing whatever the fuck you were doing, you were a fucking asshole and a prick. And if you found God, that's generally because I've noticed people in this business that find God do so when everybody else hates them so bad they won't speak to him. When mortals won't speak to you, you find a higher power.
Rob Van Dam stated that he found Shawn Michaels to be a little bit condescending.
He dripped with insincerity, you know what I mean? Like after I was gone for a while and I came back to the Royal Rumble, he was like, that's what I enjoy about these things is like you get to see people that aren't normally here that come back, and to let me know I'm not part of the family or whatever. When I inducted Sheik into the Hall of Fame the next day, he was in the lunchroom and he was like, Rob, you were charming and funny and witty, like what a backhanded compliment. It's like, dude, I know you think I'm retarded.
Shane Helms, known more famously in WWE circles as the Hurricane, stated that he really tried to like Shawn Michaels, and he also alluded to the fact that Shawn's Christianity was a bit of a gimmick, in his opinion.
Shawn was a big disappointment for me to meet as a person, coming up in his business, especially in my era, everybody liked Shawn Michaels, his in-ring talent can't be denied, I'm not saying that. I think where I made the mistake is I should have just said, I don't like Shawn Hickenbottom. That's what maybe I should have said that, because some people have a problem differentiating the two. He's just, I'm not a fan of the politics. Politics is just a nice way to say, hey, we're lying. We're lying and we're going to be nice about it. I think especially in this day and age, is not needed. I just gave an analogy the other day. I said if a story came out that Michael Jordan, one of the greatest of all time, had been going to the NBA commissioner, burying other players, trying to get him kicked out of games, trying to get him kicked out of the league, it'd be the biggest sports scandal fucking going. It'd be a massive sports scandal. But yet this guy, one of the greatest of all time, is known for doing that, and it's just accepted because it's politics. And that just shouldn't be the case, even and especially after he comes back and he's a Christian and all that, and he still does that same shit. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of dishonest people. I trust me, I wish to God that we would have got along and he would have been, as like some of the other top guys I work with, and just been cool, but he wasn't, and the whole Christian thing bothers me because I don't buy it. I think he probably believes some of it, but using it as a gimmick bothers me. It reminds me of like Jim Baker and that sort of shit. We're using it just to get money. That fucking sort of thing bothers me. I think religion is the best of humans, and it's also the fucking worst of humans. And so I don't like that either. But that's personal,
Right.
And that may be a part of what really jaded my opinion of him too, just because I don't like that.
Stevie Richards has publicly stated that Shawn Michaels was the reason he got into wrestling, but that his perception of the Heartbreak Kid changed after this particular incident.
I had a friend who was a Christian musician in a band, and he was burning CDs and stuff, and he was like, hey, if you know anybody in the locker room that would give it a listen, I'd really like to, get the word out. I'm just giving this stuff away. I want to get the word out. Fit Finley was one. There was a couple other guys that were really like, oh, that's cool. I can listen to this in the car. And I said, I got to find Shawn, because he would talk a little bit about his journey, his Bible study or whatever. So, but I went up to him and I said, hey, Shawn, I have a friend who's in a Christian rock band, or I think it was Christian rock. And he wanted me to pass out some stuff to the boys. And I go, I couldn't think of a better person that could listen to this but you. And he looked at it, looked at me, looked at the CD, and he goes, let me ask you a question. And my heart sank, because I was like, this isn't the response I was hoping for. And he goes, do you think giving me one of these makes you a good Christian? And I was like, I felt like crying at that point. I was like, what? That's all I could do is what? And he's like, answer my question. Do you think this makes you a good Christian? I go, well, no. I go, but I was just trying to, and he was like, and I don't remember because I shut it out, dude, but I could swear I'm getting choked up. He gave me the CD back. I was like, oh, okay, and then just walked away. I was like, okay. Now, what made it kind of like me not thinking I was singled out or, dealing with the two sides of Shawn Michaels, Dreamer told me this himself, and I believe it. He was sitting at catering with Shawn Michaels, and Shawn was telling him, when you get out there, you got to get, basically get your stuff in, do this, make sure you get over. He was really like kind of not browbeating, but very intently telling Dreamer, you got to be vicious, you got to do that. And Dreamer goes, but Shawn, I thought you were a Christian. And he goes, but I still got to get mine. So he said, I am, but I still got to get mine.
Matt Hardy states that even after Shawn Michaels returned to the WWE, that there were still aspects of the old HBK present.
Shawn definitely is one of the greatest packages of a professional wrestler that's ever been put together. With that being said, Shawn was like hell on wheels back in the days before his back surgery, especially when he was on top with DX, and he was, he was a self-professed dick to many people. He'd send people home and starve them. And I think people do change, and he changed some, but still there's that part of Shawn, that still like wants to be the controlling force in his career, and he has to be he has to get the final say in everything that goes on. I think some things did change in his life, but there's still little parts, like he's going to tell you a story about, like, he was doing the choke slam with Kane. It was part of the whole gimmick, and Shawn didn't like it, and because Shawn didn't like it, he talked to the powers that be, and it didn't happen. I don't know. I think Shawn goes down as one of the greatest of all times. Shawn has never done anything personally to me. I've seen situations that I've been around where He certainly rubbed people the wrong way, and maybe been a little two-faced, or not tell the person directly to their face. Where an Undertaker would tell you the issue directly to your face. So would a Stone Cold. He'd tell you the issue directly to your face. Shawn was a little bit of a different beast when it came to that, and I think that rep, really stuck with him from those earlier days. And I think even though he became a better person overall, there was still a very vicious part of him as a professional wrestler in that business world.
Bam Bigelow blames Shawn Michaels and the Clique for him losing his job.
There's heat between Shane, heat between Chris Candido and me with him because he was part of the Clique, and the three of us lost our jobs and our positions because of him and his Clique. He's a jerk, man. He's a jerk. From my understanding was that, and from a good, reliable, very reliable source, that Mark Calaway, after his match, taped up his hands, pushed everybody out of the way to TV, sat down in front of the television, and says if he don't drop the strap, I'm taking him out.
Really?
Apparently there was heat. He wasn't going to go up and do it.
Wow.
Like he was going to renege on his deal. Well, he was going to screw the whole company over. Yeah. Because they knew he was on his way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's really screwed, man. It's just terrible.
Greg the Hammer Valentine seems to have an intense dislike for the Heartbreak Kid.
I didn't like Shawn, and then when we wrestled him, I would always lay him in. I wouldn't sell shit. I'd chop the fuck out of him. Shawn Michaels. I like him better now because his face is lopsided, and it's like someone super kicked him with his own punch in his face, so it's all fucking caved in. But he's got a fucking job. He's being taken care of. He works down at the Performance Center, but he's never one of my favorite people. But he's not pretty anymore.
No.
His fucking head's caved in. He looks like who's that one-eyed guy like?
Dutch Mantel remembers a time when the Harris brothers roughed up Shawn Michaels backstage because he was mouthing off behind their backs.
But I knew they didn't like Shawn. That was obvious just riding up and down the road. Because I think, wrestlers are like women. They gossip, and he had heard that. Those brothers, the twins, had heard that, and they didn't like Shawn Michaels bad-mouthing them behind their back. So when he walked in Madison Square Garden, and I think they had some help in this too. I think some of the other guys that didn't like Shawn too, they held everybody out of the dressing room and just let Shawn go in. Because if somebody else wanted to go in there and said, wait a minute, something's going on in there, whatever. But Shawn went in there and they confronted him, and they jacked him up on that wall and told him that if he keeps running his mouth, it's going to be worse than this. I think they didn't punch him, they slapped him, I think. And that's when it stopped.
Also regarding the hatred towards Shawn Michaels, one of his best friends, Kevin Nash, known in WWE circles as Diesel, had the following to say.
I would say that Shawn doesn't have the greatest of track records before he got injured and left. I got pissed off at him, but he was ultra competitive, and we all were. We all wanted more money.
Shawn Michaels has admitted on numerous occasions that he was certainly a handful to deal with back in the day, but when confronted with the hate he's received from a lot of his fellow wrestlers, he's also come to his own defense, stating the following.
I've been so out of touch with a lot of that stuff for a long time. Honestly, most of them. I hate to break this to people, but there are absolutely millions of college players that are phenomenal athletes. Guess what? They don't make the pros.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they don't make the pros is because only the elite do, only the best do. And the reason they don't is not because anybody held them back. It's because they're not good enough. And that is a tough pill for people to swallow. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm right or this, other. I do or did things my way. You like it, awesome. You don't, I'm down with that too. But I don't want to. I'm more in the enjoyment phase of my life.
Totally.
You know what I mean? I don't want to argue with you about it.
Now, when it's all said and done, Shawn Michaels will go down in WWE history as being one of its best performers. But in any case, let me know in the comments if you have any more dodgy stories about Shawn Michaels' behavior back in the day. And if it's your first time on this channel, welcome. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos that I have on this channel.